Captain Jake Miller was drinking his morning coffee when the alarm started screaming. He nearly dropped his cup as red lights flashed across the control room of the Aurora space station. Through the large windows, he could see Earth spinning, slowly below, looking peaceful and blue. But something was very wrong. "Captain, you need to see this," called out Lisa Grant from her position at the radar station. Her voice was tight with worry. "We've got multiple contacts coming in fast, really fast." Jake set down his coffee and moved to her station. The radar screen showed dozens of dots moving toward Earth. They were big, much bigger than any ship humans had ever built. And they were coming from deep space, from a direction where nothing should be. "How long until they reach us?" Jake asked. 20 minutes, maybe less," Lisa said. She looked up at him with wide eyes. "Captain, these things are huge." "Some of them are the size of cities?" Jake felt his stomach drop. In all his years commanding the Aurora, Earth's first orbital defense station, he had never seen anything like this. The station was built to watch for asteroids and space junk, not alien ships. Because until today, everyone thought humans were alone in the universe. "Get me a line to Earth Defense Command," Jake ordered. "Priority one? And wake up everyone on the station. I want all hands at their posts in 5 minutes." The next 20 minutes felt like 20 hours. Jake watched the alien ships slow down as they approached Earth. They moved with purpose, like they knew exactly where they were going. The ships were beautiful in a terrifying way. They looked like crystals mixed with metal, glowing with soft blue light. The ships spread out around Earth, taking positions in the planet's orbit. Jake counted 37 of them. Each one was easily 10 times bigger than the Aurora. If they wanted to attack Earth, humans would have no way to stop them. Then something amazing happened. The aliens tried to talk. "This is Ambassador Veltar of the Kalthari Collective," a voice said over all communication channels. The voice was strange, with odd pauses and sounds that humans couldn't make, but the words were in perfect English. "We come in peace to offer friendship to the people of Earth." Within hours, every government on Earth was in emergency session. The aliens had asked to speak to Earth's leaders, and somehow they knew exactly who to contact. They sent detailed messages to the United Nations asking for a meeting. Dr. Lisa Carter was one of the first scientists called to the emergency meeting in New York. She had spent her whole career studying life, hoping someday to find proof that humans weren't alone. Now that proof was orbiting Earth in 37 massive ships. "This is the most important day in human history," she whispered to herself as she walked into the United Nations building. The place was chaos, with reporters, scientists, and politicians, all talking at once. General Pete Johnson was already there when Lisa arrived. He was a big man with gray hair and serious eyes. He had spent his life preparing Earth's defenses, but nothing had prepared him for this. "Dr. Carter," he said, shaking her hand, "glad you're here. We need to understand what we're dealing with." The meeting room was packed with the most important people on Earth. President Amy Walsh sat at the head of the table, looking calm even though Lisa could see worry in her eyes. The president had been in office for 2 years, but nothing in politics had prepared her for first contact with aliens. "Ladies and gentlemen," President Walsh said, "we are about to make history. The aliens have agreed to speak with us in 1 hour. Dr. Carter will lead our science team, and General Johnson will handle security concerns." The hour passed quickly. Then the screens around the room came to life, showing the inside of one of the alien ships. The alien who appeared was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. He wore robes that seemed to flow like water. "Greetings, people of Earth," Ambassador Veltar said. His mouth didn't move quite right when he spoke, like the words were being translated somehow. "I am honored to speak with your leaders." President Walsh leaned forward. "Ambassador Veltar, welcome to our solar system. We have many questions." "As do we," the alien replied. "But first we must discuss why we are here. Your species has reached an important point in its development. You have atomic power, space travel, and global communication. This makes you visible to others in the galaxy." Dr. Carter felt excitement and fear at the same time. The galaxy had other intelligent life. Lots of it, apparently. Others? General Johnson asked. What others? Ambassador Veltar's expression grew serious. The galaxy is not a safe place for developing species. There are races that hunt younger. Civilizations? They destroy planets, enslave populations, and steal resources. Your world is now at risk. The room went quiet. Lisa could hear her own heartbeat. But there is hope, the alien continued. The Kalthari Collective protects developing worlds. We offer membership in our Galactic Protection Council. We will share our technology, open trade routes, and most. Importantly, we will protect Earth from those who would harm it. President Walsh looked around the room, then back at the screen. What would this protection cost us? Very little, Ambassador Veltar said. You would follow certain guidelines for development. Allow our ships to monitor your space. Share your scientific discoveries with the Council. In return, you would have peace and prosperity. It sounded too good to be true. Lisa had learned in her years as a scientist that when something sounded too good to be true, it usually was. Can you show us evidence of these threats? Dr. Carter asked. We would like to understand what we need protection from. The aliens. Image changed, showing recordings of destroyed planets. Worlds that had been burned, cities turned to glass, populations wiped out. It was horrible to watch. The Zurek Horde did this, Ambassador Veltar explained. They are one of several savage races that prey on the weak. Without protection, Earth will suffer the same fate. General Johnson leaned back in his chair. How? Do we know you can protect us from enemies that can do this? The Kalthari Collective has protected over 200 worlds, the alien said proudly. Not one has fallen to outside attack. Our technology and military power are vast. The presentations went on for hours. The aliens showed amazing technology, ships that could travel between stars in days, weapons that could destroy asteroids, medical devices that could cure any disease. They offered to share all of it with Earth, but something bothered Lisa. Every time someone asked for specific details about these supposed threats, Ambassador Veltar gave vague answers. When asked about the timeline for attacks, he said it was impossible to predict. When asked about the specific enemies, he spoke in general terms about savage races and hostile forces. Ambassador, President Walsh said finally, this is a big decision for our species. We will need time to discuss this among ourselves. Of course, the alien replied. But do not take too long. Danger grows with each day you remain unprotected. We will maintain our position around your world while you decide. The transmission ended, leaving the room in stunned silence. Well, President Walsh said after a long moment, thoughts? It's incredible, said Dr. Carter. The technology they're offering could solve every problem we have. Disease, energy, even space travel. But why us? General Johnson asked. Why would such an advanced species care about protecting primitive humans? What do they get out of it? Lisa had been wondering. The same thing. In nature, nothing was ever free. Every relationship had a cost. Even if it wasn't obvious at first, over the next 3 days, the world debated. Some countries wanted to accept immediately. Others urged caution. Meanwhile, the alien ships stayed in orbit, waiting for an answer. But Captain Jake Miller, still watching from the Aurora space station, noticed something strange about those ships. They weren't just orbiting randomly. They had taken very specific positions around Earth, positions that looked less like protection, and more like something else entirely, something that made him very nervous about what the aliens really wanted. 3 months had passed since the Kalthari ships first appeared in Earth's orbit. The world had changed in ways both big and small. People looked up at the sky more often now, knowing that alien ships hung there like metal moons. Children drew pictures of the crystal ships in school. Scientists worked day and night studying the gifts the aliens had given them. Dr. Ben Torres was one of those scientists. He spent his days in a lab deep underground, taking apart alien devices with tools that seemed primitive compared to what he was studying. The Kalthari had given Earth several pieces of their technology as examples of what they could share. Energy, cells that never ran out, metal that was stronger than anything humans could make. Computers that thought faster than any machine on Earth, but Ben was starting to worry. The technology was amazing, but it wasn't as far ahead of human science as everyone thought. It was better, yes, but not impossibly better. Humans were maybe 50 years behind, not 500. That bothered him for reasons he couldn't explain. The power cells use fusion, just like we do, he told his assistant Maria Santos as they worked late one evening. But their method is cleaner, more efficient. We could probably figure this out on our own in a decade or two. Maria looked up from the metal sample she was testing. Maybe that's why they want to help us, to speed up our development. Ben shook his head. But why would they care? What do they get from helping us develop faster? Meanwhile, high above Earth, on the Aurora space station, Captain Jake Miller was having his own concerns. For 3 months, he had watched the alien ships maintain their exact positions around Earth. They never moved, never changed formation. It was like they were standing guard, but guarding against what? And were they keeping threats out, or keeping humans in? Lisa, run another sensor sweep of the alien formation, Jake told pilot Lisa Grant. She had become his most trusted officer since the aliens arrived. Her sharp eyes missed nothing. Same as always, Captain, Lisa reported after a few minutes. 37 ships in perfect positions. They've got every approach to Earth covered. Nothing could get to our planet without going through them. Or leave it, Jake muttered. Lisa looked at him sharply. Captain? Think about it, Jake said, moving to the large window that showed Earth below. If you wanted to keep something inside. A cage. This is exactly how you'd position the bars. That same week, Communications Officer Ryan Clark made a discovery that changed everything. Ryan was young, barely 25, but he was the best at his job. His job was to monitor all radio. Signals going in and out of Earth's atmosphere. Mostly it was boring work, listening to television broadcasts and phone calls bouncing off satellites, but lately he had been picking up other signals. Faint transmissions that didn't seem to be meant for human ears. Captain Miller, Ryan called. Out one morning, his voice excited and scared at the same time. You need to hear this. Jake hurried over to Ryan's station. The young man was wearing headphones, his face pale. I've been tracking unusual transmissions for weeks, Ryan explained. Very faint, very brief. I thought they were just space noise at first. But I've been recording them, and I finally got enough to run through the computer. What did you find? Ryan played the recording. It was mostly static, but underneath Jake could hear something that sounded almost like voices. Strange voices, speaking in a language he had never heard. The computer says it's the same language the Kalthari use among themselves. Not the translated stuff they speak to us, Ryan said. I can't understand most of it, but the computer picked up a few words. It could translate. Jake felt ice in his stomach. What words? Subject species. Containment protocols? And something that translates as either specimen or prisoner. The room went very quiet. Lisa Grant had been listening, and she looked as worried as Jake felt. They're not talking to us, Jake said slowly. They're reporting to someone else. That's what I think too, Ryan agreed. These transmissions are going out toward deep space. The Kalthari are telling someone about us? Dr. Lisa Carter was having lunch with General Pete Johnson when Jake Miller called them with Ryan's discovery. They were in a restaurant in Washington, trying to enjoy a normal meal while the world changed around them. The call ended that attempt. At normalcy. We need to meet. Jake's voice was tense over the phone. All of us, tonight, I'm sending you the recordings. That evening, the four of them gathered in a secure room at the Pentagon. Dr. Carter listened to the alien transmissions with growing alarm. As a scientist, she was trained to look at evidence objectively. The evidence was becoming very clear. They're studying us, she said after hearing the recordings twice. These reports sound like a scientist talking about lab animals. General Johnson was pacing the room like a caged tiger. I knew something was wrong. Nobody offers to protect strangers for free. There's always a price. But what price? Dr. Carter asked. What do they really want? The answer came 2 weeks later from an unexpected source. President Amy Walsh had been growing suspicious too. The alien ambassador always gave perfect answers to their questions, but never really answered them. When pressed for details about the threats Earth faced, Ambassador Veltar always changed the subject. I want to try something, the president told her advisors. I want to ask them a direct question and see how they react. The next meeting with Ambassador Veltar was scheduled for the following day. Representatives from all the major nations would be there, as they had been for every meeting since first contact. But this time, President Walsh had a plan. Ambassador Veltar, she said after the usual greetings, we've been discussing your generous offer for 3 months now, but we still have one simple question that we need answered. The alien's large dark eyes focused on her. Of course, President. Walsh, we are happy to provide any information you need. You keep telling us that Earth needs protection. You show us pictures of destroyed worlds and speak of savage races that threaten developing civilizations. But you never give us specifics. The president leaned forward in her chair. So I'm asking you directly, from what, exactly, do we need protection? For the first time since the aliens had arrived, Ambassador Veltar hesitated. The pause was only a few seconds, but everyone in the room noticed it. When he spoke again, his voice had a different tone. There are many threats in the galaxy, President Walsh, the Zorak Horde, the Void Stalkers, rogue artificial intelligences. The specific nature of the threat is less important than the protection we offer. But it is important to us, President. Walsh pressed. If we're going to accept your protection, we need to know what we're being protected from. When might these threats arrive? How do they choose their targets? What makes a world attractive to them? Another pause, longer this time. These are complex matters, the alien said finally. The important thing is that you trust us to handle these threats for you. Trust. That was the word that changed everything for Dr. Carter. In her years as a scientist, she had learned that anyone who asked for trust without providing evidence was usually hiding something important. After the meeting ended, she stayed behind to talk with President Walsh. He's lying, Dr. Carter said simply. I don't know about what, but he's definitely lying. President Walsh nodded. I think so too. The question is, what is he lying about? That night, Captain Miller received new orders from General Johnson. He was to begin careful observation of the alien ships, looking for any sign of their true purpose. Lisa Grant was to make regular flights around Earth's orbit, staying far enough from the alien ships to avoid suspicion, but close enough to learn something useful. It was during one of these flights that Lisa made the discovery that confirmed their worst fears. Captain, you're not going to believe this. Her voice crackled over the radio as she flew her small ship past one of the Calthari vessels. What is it, Lisa? I'm looking at the alien ship formations from a different angle. From below instead of from the side. Captain, this isn't a protective formation at all. Jake felt his blood turn cold. What do you mean? It's a net, Captain. They've got Earth wrapped up in a net. Nothing gets in, but more importantly, nothing gets out. We're not being protected. We're being contained. The truth hit everyone at the same time. The Calthari weren't offering to protect Earth from galactic threats. They were the threat. Earth wasn't being invited to join a galactic community. It was being placed in a galactic prison. And humanity was about to find out why. Dr. Carter was working late in her lab when the pieces finally came together. She was reviewing all the data they had collected about the Calthari when she noticed something in their ship designs. The aliens' technology was advanced, but it all followed the same patterns. Everything was standardized, predictable, efficient, but human technology was chaos. Every country developed weapons differently. Every company built computers their own way. Every scientist approached problems from a unique angle. Where the aliens had order, humans had creative disorder, and that, she realized with growing horror, might be exactly what the aliens feared most about humanity. They weren't here to protect Earth from savage races. They were here to protect the galaxy from the most savage race of all, humans. Dr. Lisa Carter couldn't sleep. For 3 days, the terrible truth had been eating at her mind. The aliens weren't protectors. They were jailers. And humanity was their newest prisoner. She sat in her office at 2 in the morning, surrounded by papers and computer screens showing alien data. Everything made sense now, but she needed proof. Real proof that would convince the world's leaders that the Calthari were lying. The breakthrough came from an unexpected place. Tom Brady, an intelligence officer who worked with General Johnson, had been studying the alien records more carefully than anyone else. He was good at finding lies, and the Calthari had told many lies. "Dr. Carter," Tom said when he called her at dawn, "I found something big. Can you meet me at the Pentagon in an hour?" When Lisa arrived, Tom was waiting with a stack of printed images and a grim expression. "Remember those recordings the aliens showed us? The destroyed worlds?" Tom spread the images across the table. "I've been analyzing them frame by frame. Look at this." He pointed to one of the images showing a burned planet. "See the crater patterns, the way the cities were destroyed? This wasn't done by primitive raiders or savage races. This was done by advanced weapons. Weapons just like the ones the Calthari carry." Lisa felt sick. They destroyed these worlds themselves? "That's not even the worst part," Tom continued. He pulled out another set of images. "I ran the planetary data through our astronomical databases. 3 of these destroyed worlds are actually thriving colonies that still exist today. The Calthari faked the destruction videos." The room spun around Lisa. "They're not just lying about protecting us. They're lying about everything." Within hours, General Johnson had called an emergency meeting. President Walsh, Dr. Carter, Captain Miller, and Tom Brady gathered in the most secure room in the Pentagon. The evidence was spread across the table like pieces of a horrible puzzle. "Let me make sure I understand this," President Walsh said, her voice deadly calm. "The aliens have been studying us through abductions and spy missions. They've identified humans as a threat to their galactic empire. They're not here to protect us from savage races. They are the savage race, and they want to contain us before we become too dangerous." "That's exactly right," Tom Brady confirmed. "And there's more. I've been tracking their communications with help from our satellite network. The Calthari aren't just reporting about humans. They're asking for permission to take the next step." "What next step?" Captain Miller asked, though his expression suggested he already knew. "Elimination," Tom said simply. "If we don't agree to their protection soon, they're going to destroy Earth just like they destroyed those other worlds." The room went silent. Outside the windows, Washington, D.C. continued its normal busy life. People went to work, children played in parks, families had dinner together. None of them knew that their entire species was about to be judged by alien conquerors. "How long do we have?" President Walsh asked. "Based on their communication patterns." "Maybe a week," Tom replied. "They're waiting for final orders from somewhere deeper in space. Orders that will either put us in permanent containment or wipe us out completely." Dr. Carter stood up and walked to the window. She could see the Potomac River flowing peacefully below. "We have to tell them we know," she said. "We have to confront them directly." "That might trigger the attack immediately," General Johnson warned. "It might," Lisa agreed. "But we can't keep pretending we believe their lies. And maybe, just maybe, we can learn something more about their real plans." President Walsh made the decision that would change everything. "Set up another meeting with Ambassador Veltar tomorrow morning. And this time, we're going to ask the questions that really matter." The next morning, the same diplomatic room was filled with tension thick enough to cut. Ambassador Veltar appeared on the screens, looking as calm and friendly as always. But now the humans knew what hid behind that peaceful expression. "Ambassador," President Walsh began, "we've been doing more research into the threats you've warned us about. We'd like to discuss some specific details." "Of course," the alien replied smoothly. "We are happy to provide any information that will help you make the right decision." President Walsh picked up one of Tom Brady's photographs. We'd like you to explain this world to us. You showed us this planet as an example of destruction by savage races. But our scientists have confirmed that this world still exists and is home to a thriving civilization. For the first time since first contact, Ambassador Veltar's expression changed. The friendly mask slipped for just a moment, showing something cold and calculating underneath. There must be some mistake, the alien said, but his voice had lost its warm tone. Our records are very accurate, are they? Dr. Carter leaned forward. Because we found that 3 of the 5 worlds you showed us as destroyed are actually still inhabited. The destruction you showed us was fake? The alien's large dark eyes seemed to grow darker. I do not understand what you are suggesting. We're suggesting, President Walsh said clearly, that you've been lying to us from the beginning. There are no savage races threatening Earth. The only threat to developing civilizations in this galaxy is the Kalthari Collective. The silence stretched for long seconds. When Ambassador Veltar spoke again, his voice was completely different. The fake warmth was gone, replaced by something that sounded like ice. You are more perceptive than most species, he said. Most. Accept our protection gratefully and never ask difficult questions. General Johnson leaned back in his chair, so you admit it. You're not protectors, you're conquerors. We are preservers of order, the alien corrected. The galaxy is a complex place that requires careful management. Some species develop in ways that threaten that order. Those species must be contained or removed. And what makes a species threatening? Dr. Carter asked, though she suspected she knew the answer. Ambassador Veltar's image seemed to grow larger on the screen. Species that develop too quickly, species that are too aggressive, species that refuse to follow established patterns. Species like yours. The truth was finally in the open. Everything the humans had suspected was confirmed by the alien's own words. Humans are dangerous, Veltar continued. In our centuries of observation, we have never encountered a species that develops technology so chaotically, fights so viciously, or adapts so quickly to new situations. You are unpredictable, you are violent. You are creative in ways that threaten the stability we have built over thousands of years. So you decided to cage us, President Walsh said. We decided to offer you a choice, the alien replied. Accept our guidance and live within the boundaries we set for you. Your species will survive, but under our control. Your development will be managed. Your expansion will be limited. Your creativity will be channeled in safe directions. And if we refuse? Ambassador Veltar's expression became something that might have been a smile, but had no warmth in it. Then you will join the other species that chose unwisely. Your world will be sterilized, and the galaxy will be safe from your influence. Tom Brady spoke for the first time during the meeting. How many worlds have you destroyed? 47 civilizations have required complete elimination, the alien answered without emotion. 136 others accepted our guidance and remain under our protection. We are not unreasonable. We always offer the choice. Some choice, Captain Miller muttered from his position at the back of the room. It is more choice than most species receive, Veltar said coldly. The previous galactic order was chaos. Endless wars between developing species, technology shared recklessly. Entire sectors destabilized by aggressive expansion. We brought peace through oppression, Dr. Carter said. Peace through order, the alien corrected. Order that your species threatens simply by existing. President Walsh stood up slowly. Ambassador Veltar, I want to make sure I understand our situation. Completely. You're telling us that Earth must either submit to permanent imprisonment or face total destruction. Those are your options, yes. And how long do we have to decide? The alien checked something off-screen. My superiors have authorized me to extend your decision period until the end of this week. After that, ships carrying planet-killing weapons will arrive in your system. The decision will be made for you. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the humans staring at blank screens. Well, President Walsh said after a long moment, at least we know where we stand. We stand on the edge of extinction, General Johnson said grimly. Maybe, Dr. Carter said, looking around the room at the faces of Earth's defenders. Or maybe we stand at the beginning of the most important fight in human history. Captain Miller smiled for the first time in days. I vote for the fight. The decision was made in that moment, though none of them said it out loud. Earth would not surrender. Earth would not accept imprisonment. Earth would fight, even against impossible odds, because that's what humans did. When faced with bullies, they didn't back down. When told they couldn't win, they fought anyway. When offered slavery or death, they chose a third option. They chose war. The world had 5 days to prepare for war against an enemy that could destroy planets. Most people would have called it impossible. But humans had never been very good at accepting the impossible. Within hours of the confrontation with Ambassador Veltar, every military base on Earth was buzzing with activity. General Pete Johnson had sent a simple message to commanders around the world. Prepare for immediate alien invasion. This is not a drill. At first, some leaders didn't believe it. The idea that friendly aliens were actually conquerors seemed too crazy. But when President Walsh released the recordings of the real conversation with Veltar, the world woke up fast. Dr. Ben Torres found himself at the center of humanity's desperate preparations. His underground lab became the most important place on Earth as scientists worked around the clock to turn alien technology against its creators. We need weapons, General Johnson told him during an emergency meeting. Anything you can build. From their technology, Ben looked exhausted. He hadn't slept in 2 days. General, their energy weapons are incredibly advanced. But they're also incredibly complex. I can't build copies in 5 days. Then don't build copies, suggested Kate Wilson, a young engineer who had been working with Ben's team. Build something they won't expect. Kate had an idea that sounded crazy but might actually work. The alien technology was designed to work perfectly with other alien technology. Everything connected smoothly, efficiently, predictably. But what if humans connected it to something completely different? Look at this, Kate said, showing them a diagram on her computer. The alien energy cells put out incredible power, but they expect to connect to alien systems. What if we connect them to our weapons instead? Ben stared at the diagram. You want to put alien power sources into human missiles? Not just missiles, Kate said excitedly. Everything. Tanks, jets, ships, even handheld weapons. Their power. Cells could make our weapons hit 10 times harder. It was brilliant in its simplicity. The aliens had given Earth samples of their technology as gifts. Now those gifts would be turned into weapons to fight their creators, but Earth needed more than better weapons. It needed a plan. Captain Jake Miller was called down from the Aurora space station to help with strategy. Along with Lisa Grant, he met with military leaders from every major nation. The room was full of generals and admirals who had spent their careers preparing for wars between humans. Now they had to figure out how to fight aliens. We can't match their firepower, Admiral Robert Chun said bluntly. Their ships are too big, too advanced, too many. Then we don't fight their ships directly, Captain Miller replied. We use their arrogance against them. Miller had been thinking about this for days. The Calthari had conquered over 100 worlds, but they always did it the same way. They offered protection, then imprisonment, then destruction if refused. It was efficient, but it was also predictable. They think they know how civilized species fight, Miller continued. They expect us to line up our ships against theirs and have a proper space battle. They expect us to follow rules. What rules? Asked General Johnson. Their rules, Lisa Grant answered, understanding where Miller was going. They fight clean, efficient wars. They probably haven't faced a truly desperate enemy in centuries. So we don't fight clean, Miller said with a grim smile. We fight dirty, we fight like humans. The plan that emerged was insane, desperate, and completely unpredictable, which made it perfectly human. While the military prepared for war, the most important mission fell to Marine Sergeant Dan Foster and his team. They had to capture an alien ship intact. Not destroy it, capture it. The information inside could mean the difference between victory and extinction. "You understand this is a suicide mission," General Johnson told Foster before the mission launched. "Yes, sir," Foster replied. "But if we don't try, we're all dead anyway." Foster's team consisted of 12 Marines, the best fighters Earth had to offer. They would use a captured alien shuttle, modified by Kate Wilson's team, to get close to one of the smaller Calthari ships. Then they would board it using nothing but human weapons, human tactics, and human stubbornness, the mission launched at dawn on the 4th day. Lisa Grant piloted the modified shuttle, using every trick she knew to avoid the alien sensors. The shuttle looked like space junk on the outside, but inside it carried Earth's best soldiers. "Remember," Foster told his team as they approached the alien ship, "these beings have never fought Marines before. They don't know what we're capable of when we're angry." The boarding was violent and brief. The aliens on the ship were completely unprepared for the savage intensity of human soldiers fighting for their species' survival. Foster's team moved through the ship like a hurricane, using grenades, automatic weapons, and close combat techniques that no civilized species would ever think to use. Within 20 minutes, the alien ship was in human hands. 3 Marines were dead, but the mission was a success. The ship's computers contained information that would change everything. Dr. Lisa Carter was waiting when the captured ship arrived at a secret military base. As Earth's top expert on alien technology, she was the person best qualified to understand what they had found. What she discovered made her both terrified and hopeful at the same time. "The Calthari aren't invincible," she told the emergency leadership meeting that night. "Their ships are powerful, but they're not designed for the kind of fighting we're planning." She showed them the alien ship's specifications on a large screen. "Look at this. Their weapons are incredibly destructive, but they're all long-range. They're designed to destroy planets from a safe distance or fight other ships in organized space battles." "What about close combat?" Captain Miller asked. "They don't have any," Carter said with growing excitement. "No point defense systems. No armor against boarding attacks. No weapons designed for ship-to-ship fighting at close range. They've never needed them because no civilized species would ever think to ram an enemy ship or board it during battle." General Johnson leaned forward. "Are you saying what I think you're saying?" "I'm saying that if we can get close enough, we can hurt them," Carter confirmed. "Their ships are like medieval castles. Incredibly strong walls, but if you get inside, the defenders have no idea how to fight." But the most important discovery was in the ship's communication system. Ryan Clark, the communications officer from the Aurora, had been working with the alien computers for hours. What he found changed the entire war. "The Calthari Empire is bigger than we thought," Ryan reported. "They control hundreds of star systems. But here's the thing, most of those systems aren't voluntary members, they're prisoners, just like Earth was supposed to be." The room went quiet as the implications sank in. "How many prisoners?" President Walsh asked. "Hundreds of species spread across dozens of systems," Ryan answered. "And according to these files, many of them have tried to rebel before. The Calthari have had to put down uprisings on at least 50 worlds in the past century." Dr. Carter felt a spark of hope for the first time in days. "They're not popular rulers. Their empire is held together by fear, not loyalty. Which means," Captain Miller said slowly, "that if someone showed these oppressed species that the Calthari could be beaten, they might join the fight," General Johnson finished. The plan was growing beyond just defending Earth. If humanity could somehow defeat the Calthari fleet, they could spark a galaxy-wide revolution. Instead of just saving themselves, they could free everyone. But first, they had to survive the next 24 hours. The alien reinforcements were arriving. Long-range sensors showed massive ships entering the solar system, ships designed specifically for destroying planets. The real Calthari war fleet was here, and they had enough firepower to turn Earth into dust and military bases around the world. Human soldiers made final preparations. Modified weapons powered by alien technology were loaded onto ships and planes. Suicide pilots volunteered for ramming attacks. Marines prepared for boarding missions that would either save humanity or die trying. In space, Captain Miller took command of Earth's hastily assembled defense fleet. Most of the ships weren't military vessels. They were converted cargo ships, passenger shuttles, and even some luxury yachts. All of them had been fitted with alien-powered weapons and crewed by volunteers, who knew they probably wouldn't survive the battle. "This is Captain Miller to all ships," he broadcast as the alien fleet approached. "Today we're not just fighting for Earth. We're fighting for every species that has ever been enslaved by these monsters. We're fighting to prove that freedom is stronger than fear." The alien fleet was beautiful and terrible. Dozens of crystal ships, each one the size of a city, moving in perfect formation toward Earth. They had come to deliver an ultimatum that they expected Earth to accept without question. Instead, they were about to learn what happened when humans were told they had no choice. They were about to discover that the most dangerous species in the galaxy was one that refused to give up. No matter how hopeless things looked, the battle for Earth was about to begin. The HFY War fleet arrived at Earth exactly when their computers said they would. 43 massive ships, each one carrying enough firepower to crack a planet's surface. They moved in perfect formation, maintaining precise distances from each other. Everything about them showed the cold efficiency of a species that had conquered the galaxy through superior technology and careful planning. Captain Jake Miller watched them approach from the bridge of the converted cargo ship Freedom's Edge. Around him, a crew of volunteers worked at stations that had been torn out of alien ships and jury-rigged into human vessels. Nothing matched, nothing looked right, but everything worked. "All ships, this is Miller," he spoke into his communications device. "Remember, we don't try to match their formation. We don't fight their kind of battle, we fight ours." The human fleet was spread throughout the solar system like scattered seeds. Some ships hid behind asteroids. Others drifted with their engines off, pretending to be space debris. A few brave pilots waited near the sun itself, using the stars' radiation to mask their signatures. It was chaos compared to the alien formation. But chaos was humanity's greatest weapon. The battle began when Ambassador Veltar sent his final message to Earth. "People of Earth," his voice came through every communication channel on the planet, "you have refused our protection. You have chosen extinction. We will make your end quick." President Amy Walsh was in the Underground Command Center in Washington when she heard the message. Around her, screens showed the positions of both fleets. Earth's defenders looked pitifully small compared to the alien armada. "This is President Walsh to the HFY fleet," she broadcast back. "You offered us protection from threats we couldn't handle. But we've decided we can handle the biggest threat ourselves." "And what threat is that?" Veltar asked, his voice full of cold amusement. "You?" The first shots came from the alien ships. Beams of energy that could melt mountains reached out toward Earth's orbital defenses. The Aurora space station, Jake, Miller's old home, vanished in a ball of superheated gas. 2 human ships died in the first seconds of the fight, but then something happened that the HFY had never experienced in their centuries of conquest. The humans didn't retreat. Instead, they attacked. Lisa Grant was piloting a modified fighter when she made the first successful strike against an alien ship. Instead of trying to match the aliens' long-range weapons, she flew straight at it, dodging energy beams by flying in patterns no sane pilot would attempt. "This is for everyone you've murdered," she whispered as she crashed her ship directly into the alien vessel's weapon array. The explosion was beautiful and terrible. Lisa's ship was destroyed instantly, but the alien ship's main gun went dead. For the first time in the battle, a HFY vessel was damaged. All across the solar system, human ships began their desperate attacks. They didn't try to fight fair. They rammed alien ships. They hid in asteroid fields and ambushed enemies. They used tactics that no civilized species would ever consider. Dr. Ben Torres was on one of the ships that made it through the alien defenses. His team had turned a passenger shuttle into a flying bomb, packed with alien energy cells rigged to explode. When they crashed into a HFY ship, the explosion tore a hole in its hull the size of a city block. The aliens were winning, but they were taking damage they had never expected. Their perfect formation began to break apart as ships moved to avoid ramming attacks. Their efficient weapon systems couldn't target enemies that flew in completely unpredictable patterns, but the real turning point came when Sergeant Dan Foster led his Marines in humanity's most insane attack yet. Foster and 30 Marines had hidden inside a cargo container floating in space. When a damaged alien ship came close enough, they used small rockets to propel themselves across the void. In spacesuits, with nothing but human weapons, they boarded an alien warship. The fighting inside the ship was brutal. The aliens had energy weapons, but they had never learned to fight in the narrow corridors of their own vessels. The Marines moved through the ship like wolves, using grenades and automatic weapons in ways that horrified the civilized Calthari. "Secure the bridge," Foster ordered as his team fought their way through the ship. "We need those communication systems." When they reached the bridge, Foster found what he was looking for. The ship's long-range communication array was still working, and Ryan Clark, who had come with the boarding party, knew exactly how to use it. "This is Earth to all oppressed species in Calthari space," Ryan broadcast on every frequency the alien ship could reach. "The Masters are not invincible. We are proving it right now. Rise up, fight back, freedom is possible." The message went out across the galaxy in the Calthari's own language, using their own communication networks. Every enslaved world, every imprisoned species, every civilization that had been forced to accept protection heard it, and they heard the sounds of battle in the background. The sounds of Calthari ships exploding. The sounds of their oppressors dying. Ambassador Veltar realized what was happening when reports started coming in from across the Empire. Uprisings on 17 worlds. Rebellions in 12 star systems. The carefully maintained order of centuries was cracking apart. "Impossible," he said to his bridge crew. "A primitive species cannot defeat us." But as he watched, another human ship rammed one of his vessels. As he spoke, human Marines were fighting through his fleet's corridors. As he planned his next move, the galaxy was rising up against everything he represented. Dr. Lisa Carter was in the command center on Earth. When the tide of battle finally turned, the human fleet was nearly gone. 3/4 of Earth's defenders were dead or missing, but the alien fleet was broken too. "Captain Miller is still alive," someone reported. "His ship is damaged but fighting." On the screens, they could see Miller's ship, the Freedom's Edge, closing in on Veltar's command vessel. The ship was trailing fire and air, but it was still moving. "This is Miller to all human ships," his voice crackled over the radio. "One more push, we can break them." The final attack was led by what remained of Earth's fleet. A dozen ships against the Calthari flagship. They came from all directions at once, using every dirty trick humans had learned in the battle. Captain Miller's ship was the first to reach the alien command vessel. Instead of firing weapons, he rammed directly into the ship's bridge section. The impact tore both vessels apart, but it left the Calthari fleet without its leader. With Ambassador Veltar dead and their command ship destroyed, the alien fleet began to fall apart. Some ships tried to retreat, others surrendered. A few kept fighting until human Marines boarded them and ended the resistance. The battle for Earth was over. Humanity had won, but the war for the galaxy was just beginning. In the days that followed, reports poured in from across Calthari space that had been enslaved for centuries were breaking free. The protection that had kept the galaxy in chains was crumbling as world after world declared independence. President Walsh stood in the ruins of the command center, reading reports from 100 different star systems. Each one told the same story. The oppressed were rising up, inspired by Earth's example. "What happens now?" Dr. Carter asked. She was exhausted, covered in dust from the battle, but alive. "Now we help them stay free," Walsh replied. "The galaxy asked us what we needed protection from. We showed them. And now they know they don't need protection either." 6 months later, Captain Jake Miller stood on the bridge of a new ship, built with technology shared freely between species that had once been prisoners. He was leading the first mission of the Galactic Liberation Fleet, heading to a star system where the last Calthari stronghold was making a final stand. The war to free the galaxy would take years. But humanity had proven something important that day when the aliens first arrived in Earth's orbit. When someone offers you protection, always ask the most important question, from what? Because sometimes the greatest threat is the one offering to protect you, and sometimes the best defense is to refuse to be afraid. The humans had learned that lesson well. Now they were teaching it to the galaxy.